Paris is the first small city that I've gone to that doesn't have a couple of books on the shelf in the library distinctly with the history of Paris. But I just found a history of it. And oddly enough, it's actually a history of how the 1% manages to control and subdue the 99%. So this is in the beginning, it was the Native Americans, and we know that slavery was going on in this time. The Native Americans could not be controlled and tamed because they knew how to get their own food from the land. They knew how to take care of themselves. And so they sent old Ironsides. This is weird. I thought Ironsides was a Confederate ship, but it's got blue uniforms, which is from the North. So they sent the Civil War and they destroyed slavery. So what did they put in its place? Well, the WPA came in. This is the early 1930s. This is what broke up the Great Depression, and they built this dam. And you'll notice that the people that are getting transportation, they are all African American. I think what this did was it completely segregated the communities. It was able, the white folks were able to put the 99%, all of their working folks, on one side of the river, and then the 1%, they had a dam and they had all of this hydroelectric power. They had fresh water all the time. And then transportation for moving products down the river. Then how do you control and subdue a population? Well, you do it by food. This is the 1940s. Everybody is starving, and so the government comes in with the first chemicals that start getting put onto all of the food. So now the food is all inundated with chemicals, and that's controlling people's brains. And then they also did something that folks like to call sex magic. Every man was a king, and every man had his castle, and they needed a worker. All the men wanted to have a slave, and this is when the women transitioned to being a slave. And suicide rates were the highest ever during this time period for women who were trapped in this picture-perfect lifestyle. It was hell. More boats transporting products. This is how the 1% are making lots of money, taking these products and the labor from these folks and selling it and getting really, really rich. It's awesome. This next one, what's going on here? Oh, okay, here we go. Coffee and all the products that are being brought in from all around the world, they can be sold, and the 1% makes a whole lot of money. But this is actually a good time for people. Lots of businesses opened up, and of course the wealthy elites, they get really great recreational amenities for them to enjoy, supported and paid for by the labor of the 99%. Folks, we are such hard workers. We're taking such good care of the people that produce the poison for us. And then we got to skip on down. A good little bit of time period goes by, and then we see the arrival of water, electric, and wastewater. This is a wonderful thing for the wealthy elites. The 1% is on a special water line. It's actually called the water of gold in the Bible, and it makes them smart and strong and keeps them healthy. And then they pumped the wastewater. Some of it went directly to the black and brown neighborhoods, and it caused pretty serious brain damage, preventing them from learning and growing and locking them in for the rest of their lives. And then our aspiring middle-class neighborhoods, they received completely chlorinated water, which had all of the minerals removed that make the 1% so smart. And once they have that removed, they can still go to school and they can learn just enough to work at the desk jobs that they need. Then in comes the cars, and we think of this as a great universal good, but also notice all the fat cats standing there and the smiling, grinning guys. I think they're lawyers. This is also when life insurance, right after World War II, everybody was buying life insurance. And also, this was a great way for somebody to meet an untimely end, and these guys had life insurance policies. Cut a brake line, husband dead, wife is rich. Cut a brake line, wife is dead, man gets rich. So whichever way you go, it was great for everybody, especially the fat cats at the top, because you had to buy a new car after it happened. And then last, this is the most insidious of all. The medical system combined with our food system, food bank, there we go. The food that they serve is totally poisoned, and it causes cancer, diabetes, all of those things, causes birth defects, and then the medical industrial complex comes in and they provide their cures that don't actually work to keep you sick, but to milk you for so much money. And the 1% rejoiced because they got so rich. And then everybody that has one of these children finally has a forever child that will never leave home, never work. And the best part of all, they draw SSI benefits forever. They're a paycheck. A mentally disabled child is a forever paycheck. That's why people are fighting over our children, whether they want them or not. They're worth a lot of money straight from the government. And this is the history of Paris, Tennessee.